Hello everyone, welcome to Art with Tracy Anne. When I first started tangling, I wasn't quite sure how to do the shading. Because Zentangle is usually non-representational, did I need a light source? Did I even need to shade? But I did come up with 7 handy tips, so stick around and hopefully they'll be helpful for you. If you're new to Zentangle, this is the ideal project. You don't need many materials. I used a 3.5-inch square tile. You could use any paper. A 2B pencil. Your B pencils are going to be softer and therefore darker than any of your H pencils. A tortillon or blending stick and a fine tip marker. I used a micron pen for this project because there was a little bit of colouring, but you could use any type of marker. We'll begin by putting a dot in each corner. Join the dots to create a border. For our string, I'm just doing a closed shape in the centre of the tile. I'm going to start with the pattern printemps and fill the area between the string that we drew and the border. Most people start drawing this pattern from the inside and work their way out. You can see I'm doing the opposite here, but if you prefer to start from the center, that's completely fine. You'll find that results look just the same. Continue drawing this shape, filling the area between the string and the border. As you draw it, make some of the circles bigger and have others peeping out from behind. This just adds a little bit of variety. I'm going to speed up the video now, but if you are following along, feel free to pause it at any time. For our second tangle, I'll be drawing crescent moon. We start this tangle by drawing the half moon shape and have it as if it's looking to be peeping from behind the printemps. Colour in the shape carefully. Take your time doing this, there's no big rush. And then when you draw the other shapes, space them very evenly around the string that we drew in the beginning. Now we'll echo those moon shapes by drawing an aura around each one. Once we've been all the way around, go again and create a second aura. When the auras start to join together, keep going, just echo the line that you see in front of you. Fill the entire center until you get right to the middle. And now we're ready for shading. The first question we want to ask ourselves is, how much ink did I use? As you can see on this tile, I used a lot of ink. I used very little shading. If we look at the tile we just completed, we didn't use quite as much ink, so there's room there to put some more shading. In order to do that, let's look at our next tip. What do I want to stand out? In this case, I want the printemps to stand out. Tip number 3, where do I want my eyes to travel? I want my eyes to travel down into the center of the tile. When we're shading, lighter colours come to the front and darker colours recede. To keep our printemps fairly light, we'll add shadow along that lip where the two patterns meet. So go along the edge and just gently shade with your pencil. If I want my eyes to travel down into the center of that tile, I'm going to lead them down there by shading in between the crevices. This gives the appearance of us looking down into a deep canyon. Tip number 4. Are there any shapes that are round or curved? Our crescent moon shapes are curved, and we want to emphasize the curves by using the tortillon to draw the graphite around those curves. As you do this, be very careful not to completely cover that curve. We want to leave the center of the curve pretty white. Then take our tortillon up to the edge and blend in the graphite there too. Tip number 5. Do any of my patterns overlap? If you remember when we were drawing our printemps pattern, some of them were peeping from behind. The pattern that's on top will overlap the one that's behind. Be careful to only place a light shading in this area, because remember, we want the printemps to stand out, and so in order to do that, they need to be kept pretty light, so we don't want to overpower that pattern by adding too much shade. Now use the tortillon to soften those edges, being very careful not to draw the graphite out too far. Tip number 6, build up shadows gradually. I've already put down a layer of shading, but I want to add a little bit more drama to the center of this tile. So I'm going to go a little bit more heavily around the edge between the two patterns. Now blend that in with your tortillon. And we're finished. Find a place to add your initial. Then sign your tile. My 7th tip, and the tip of the day, is leave some white spaces. If we go too far with our shading, we can completely spoil the effect. Looking at the before and after shading picture, what do you think? There are no mistakes in Zentangle, so there's no right or wrong way of shading. Just for fun, I tried a different way to see how different the effects are. But going back on our rule of do any shapes overlap, this one I wasn't quite happy with. So I tried a different approach. I drew the crescent moon first and then extended this pattern to create full circles. I drew printemps in the background. So the focus then became on that center pattern. Added shading, and now I have a different focus. If we compare our two experiments, you can see the second one just doesn't look quite right. Now let's compare the one we did today and our other attempt. Changing the focus. Completely different effects. Which one do you like best? If we go back to our original before and after shading, I'm very pleased with the effects. I really think the shading makes this piece pop. In a future video, I can show you some more complicated shading, like in this Zentangle Inspired Art. My question of the day is, what are your Zentangle challenges? Please leave a comment down below to tell me what you'd like to see in future videos. How did you go with that? If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe, because next week I'll be showing you how to tangle outside the box and come up with a really cool scratch lottery ticket. Thanks for watching.